massive army marched through the forest, spears raised in a deadly formation. Panic spread through the hidden watchers as they counted the enemy. The enemies. There are 1,000, 2,000, no, even more. They had expected a battle, not a war. April 15th, year 209 of the Claudian calendar. A day that would carve itself into history. The enemy ranks thundered forward, a tidal wave of steel and spears shaking the ground. Hidden in the forest line, our forces stood, barely 300 rearguards left to defend, outnumbered 10-1. But even surrounded by fear, one voice stayed steady. However, all we must do. His eyes burned with resolve. No retreat, no hesitation. Even if they were the last line, they would not break. Leonard stepped forward, fire in his eyes, voice ringing out with conviction. Our duty is to stop the enemy here. He was no ordinary soldier. He was Leonard, the 8th Imperial Prince of the Claude Empire. And today he chose to stand on the front lines, not behind them. The prince faced his men, shoulders squared, gaze steady. In order to let the main troops ahead escape, their mission wasn't glory. It was to buy time even if it cost their lives. Around him, soldiers swallowed hard. Fear and loyalty mixed in their eyes. Leonard clenched his fist tight, his armor shaking slightly. This is likely the final stand. Yet not a step back. If death waited here, they would meet it as knights, not as deserters. Leonard's fist tightened, rage and grief burning inside him. We need to put an end to this hell. So many comrades had already fallen. This nightmare had to stop, here and now. A knight clasped his hands, whispering a prayer. Athena, grant me power and lead me to victory. He looked over with a soft smile. Leo, shouldn't you also be praying to the gods, with how things are today? He was Alan, firstborn of Count Adonia, a loyal friend in a battlefield of death. Leonard quickly waved him off. No need. Alan blinked, startled, then laughed awkwardly. You're so fearless. Leonard smirked, refusing to show the fear in his own chest. Alan flustered, cheeks turning red. Leonard shot back immediately. No need. Then he smirked lightly. With how calm you are in this situation, I'd say you've got guts yourself, Alan. Even at the edge of death, they joked. Not to ignore the fear, but to fight it. Alan scratched his head awkwardly. Sorry. A soldier snickered. PFF. Another sighed, grinning. It's nothing new, is it, Leo? Laughter rolled through the line, lifting the tension. Seriously, one said. Your conversations are the same as always. Another soldier shouted proudly. And like Lord Alan said, we have His Highness, the Fearless, with us. It makes us feel silly for getting cold feet. Their spirits rose, because even facing death, they weren't alone. Leonard nodded firmly, eyes forward. Let's do this. Alan grinned beside him. You got it. Their armor clashed as they took their stance. Two soldiers, two friends, ready to face death together. Leonard exhaled slowly, a quiet fire burning inside him. I don't need any gods. The only way out has always been through my own power. He clenched his jaw. Faith? No, he would carve his fate with his own hands. A roar erupted from the forest ahead. The enemy charged, a tidal wave of steel and fury crashing toward them. Here they come. The ground shook, swords drew, and the final battle began to roar to life. Leonard suddenly sprinted ahead, breaking formation. Wait, Leo! Shock rippled through the line. Enemies roared with laughter. Ha ha ha! Charging all by yourself. Are you stupid? But Leonard didn't slow. He tore forward like a blade of pure will. The enemy soldier sneered and swung down. It's over for why? Leonard's sword flashed. A clean, brutal strike, and the man's words died with him. Blood burst across the battleground as the enemy ranks froze in shock. In one breath, one swing, Leonard cut them down. More enemies lunged, but Leonard spun, blade sweeping like a storm. Heads flew, armor split, bodies crumpled at his feet. In his eyes, no hesitation, only fire. This wasn't luck. This was a man who refused to die quietly. An enemy roared and swung. "Don't get so full of yourself, little boy." Leonard's blade spun, cutting through the attack with fierce momentum. "I'll never stop, for the sake of my precious companions." His eyes burned with fury and resolve. "Here I go." The soldiers behind him trembled, not with fear, but awe. "He's really doing this." One enemy lunged, and Leonard met him without hesitation. "I won't let you through, even if it kills me." Steel crashed. Blood sprayed. This was no prince, this was a warrior. Alan watched, heart pounding, eyes wide. Geez." A shaky smile spread across his face. Seeing Leo charge alone lit a fire in his chest too. He couldn't just stand there. Alan raised his voice with all he had. "Follow Leo." The soldiers roared in answer, stomping forward. "Everyone, yeah!" Armor rattled, earth shook. Leonard's courage had become their battle cry. Together they surged into the jaws of war. Alan's heart pounded as he sprinted forward with the others, breath shaking. But his eyes were burning with excitement. Right? This wasn't fear anymore. It was determination. Leonard slashed through another enemy, shouting, "Push!" The soldiers roared back, clashing steel against steel. "We need to fortify the sides." Every strike, every step, they fought to hold the line. A spear lunged, Leonard parried hard, steel clanking. He countered in a fierce arc. The enemy armor split open with a brutal crack. Another soldier tried to flank him, but Leonard twisted, smashing forward again. He wouldn't fall here, not today. Leonard read the battlefield in a split second. Now's my chance. He lunged, only to take a hit to the side. NGH. Enemies burst into cruel laughter. "Ha ha ha ha! You unlucky bastard!" But Leonard didn't stop. Pain only sharpened his focus. A spear sliced toward him. Leonard twisted just in time, the blade flashing past his face. "What?" The enemy's eyes widened with fear. "What the hell are these reflexes?" Leonard grabbed the attacker's wrist mid-strike, raw instinct and speed guiding him. Without hesitation, Leonard drove his blade forward. A clean thrust, fast enough to shatter armor and bone. The soldier's body snapped back, blood trailing through the air. Leonard didn't even pause. He had no time for mercy. Alan spotted Leonard surrounded and sprinted forward. "Leo!" Leonard turned, blade dripping, breathing heavy. More enemies rushed them. The battle wasn't slowing down. Leonard grabbed a spear mid-swing and dragged the attacker off balance. The enemy screamed. Leonard's blade cut through, clean and brutal. Blood sprayed. Armor shattered. He didn't hesitate for even a breath. Alan caught up beside him. Leonard gave a strained grin. "Sorry, I'm always like this, Alan." Alan shook his head, smiling despite the chaos. "Don't worry about it. We're friends, aren't we?" Side by side, they stood as comrades, not prince and noble. The forest shook as countless soldiers charged, screaming war cries. Bodies fell. The earth trembled under the storm of footsteps. There would be no retreat, not for anyone here. The battlefield erupts in chaos, steel clashing and bodies falling. Despite the overwhelming enemy numbers, Leo's troops keep pressing forward with burning determination. Leo shouts commands through the roar of battle. His voice carries strength, will, and something infectious, the kind of resolve that can turn fear into fire. "Keep moving. Don't stop now. Push forward." Every soldier hears him, and for a moment, they truly believe victory is possible. Enemy soldiers grow uneasy, panic creeping into their eyes as the front lines crumble. There's less than 300 of them left. Why are we being pushed back? They cannot understand. They had the numbers, the formation, the advantage. Yet they are losing ground against a force that should already be dead and buried. Leo stands at the front drenched in blood and sweat, eyes blazing with a warrior's fury. Shock spreads through the enemy ranks. Who is he? Why isn't he breaking under the pressure? Leo's presence alone feels like a battering ram, smashing not just their defenses, but their morale. The battlefield trembles as the enemy begins to falter, their certainty shattered. their fear rising. Leo doesn't give them time to breathe. He charges again, unyielding, unstoppable. The battlefield roars with chaos and steel. Leo and Alan charge at the front, slicing through the enemy line like a blazing storm. Soldiers, WAAH. Bodies fall, dust rises, and their army pushes forward with unstoppable force. Leo leads with fierce determination, eyes burning with fire. Alan fights right beside him, shield up, blade flashing. Their troops follow, shouting in unity as the enemy collapses under their momentum. The battlefield quiets. A bright figure gallops forward through the clearing smoke, a knight shining in authority. Their soldiers stand still, catching their breath, forming lines again. You all held your ground well. Excellent. Relief washes over faces. Victory, even if only for this moment, is theirs. Leo's eyes widen. Hope fills his face. Composed even amid war. It's Lady Rosalia. Lady Rosalia. Her presence alone strengthens morale, like a guardian arriving in their darkest hour. Leo's heart pounds, not just with battle adrenaline, but with pride and relief. Lady Rosalia rode ahead, sword raised high. We've made it this far, just one step away from Cursand. Her voice echoed over the battlefield. We'll break the enemy's pursuit here. She wasn't retreating. She was ready to stand and fight. She glared forward with fiery resolve. If we give it everything we have and fight to the end. Her voice roared, shaking hearts. We'll all make it out alive. The troops trembled, not with fear, but with burning hope. Rosalia lifted her sword to the sky, wind snapping her cape behind her. This final effort will lead us to victory. Her soldiers erupted in cheers, voices rising like thunder. Spears raised, hearts united. They believed because she believed first. Alan smiled, breath steady. There's no one like Lady Rosalia, huh, Leo? Leo stared at her silhouette on horseback, calm, commanding, fearless. Lady Rosalia, Lord of Alexis. She shouldn't even be here. She could have escaped ahead with the main troops, but she stayed to fight beside them, and that choice meant everything. Leo clenches his fist, eyes burning with resolve. He remembers every fallen ally, every sacrifice made for him. They protected him. They believed in him. This time it's his turn, his duty, his vow. I will protect my aunt and everyone fighting beside me. No more hesitation. No more standing behind others. This moment, this choice, will define who he becomes. With a fierce roar, Leo surges forward like a storm unleashed. His blade tears through the battlefield, fueled by conviction. No fear, no doubt. Every step is power. Every swing is purpose. With my own hands, he shouts as he charges again, determined to protect those who once protected him. Chaos erupts across the battlefield. Spears fly, bodies fall, blood paints the dirt red. But even wounded, even cornered, the soldiers stand strong. If our sacrifice allows the main force to escape, if our deaths buy them time, then we accept it. They fight not for glory, but for duty, for loyalty, for the comrades who still have a chance to live. Even through pain and fear, they refuse to retreat. Steel clashed, screams filled the battlefield, and the air trembled with blood-soaked fury. Rosalia's troops struggled to hold the line, but the enemy surged like a relentless storm. Then just die already? The enemy roared, their blades cutting through soldiers like paper. Rosalia sat atop her horse, cape billowing like a war banner, eyes burning with resolve. She watched her men fall one by one, their courage piercing deeper than any sword. Her grip tightened. Her heart was breaking. The earth shook with every desperate step, the battlefield echoing with dying cries and shattered shields. Leo's warriors pushed forward, refusing to kneel, refusing to surrender. Rosalia's gaze hardened. She clenched her fist, not out of anger, but out of grief and pride. She saw it clearly. Men who chose honor over life. Soldiers who would rather die standing than live crawling. And in that quiet second amid chaos, she understood their resolve. Rosalia looked upon her knights, bruised, bleeding, yet burning with unshakable spirit. She exhaled slowly. A rare softness touched her hardened features. Not a word, yet everything was spoken. The pride in her eyes, the weight of every life on her shoulders, the quiet promise to avenge every fallen soldier. This was no longer just a battle, it was a vow. A commander who fights beside her people, a leader ready to bleed with them and for them. Leon kept his composure, a determined smile forming as he lifted his sword. Everyone, just hold on a little longer. Ahead, Rosalia charged forward, wind and dust swirling around her forces. We push again. Stay strong. Her voice boomed like thunder, fueling the soldiers' spirits as the battlefield roared alive once more. Suddenly, another rider burst into sight. Shara. Rosalia's eyes widened. Shara, why did you come back? Shara's breathing was frantic, her expression desperate. The main troops. She struggled to speak, still catching her breath, panic clear in her eyes. They're under attack, Shara shouted. Some terrifying cavalry. They broke through the forest trails and launched a surprise assault. Rosalia's jaw tightened, the news hitting like a blade to the heart. Her silence wasn't hesitation. It was fury restrained by duty. Rosalia turned sharply toward Leon. Leonard, I'm leaving the line to you. Hold them here. Do you understand? Leon's grip tightened on his sword. Yes, I'll hold the vanguard. Rosalia kicked her horse, expression fierce. TSK. This is bad, she muttered, racing to reinforce the crumbling front. The battlefield roars as Leo charges again. Side by side with Rosalia and Shara. Blades clash, armor shatters, and the forest shakes with the force of their momentum. Leo cuts down enemy after enemy, refusing to slow, refusing to break. Rosalia shouts, "Let's go, Shara." Shara nods firmly. Yes. Their final push begins, a desperate surge to hold the line and protect their retreating soldiers. Then, everything stops. Leo stands alone in the clearing, breath heavy, armor scarred, blade drenched in battle's toll. The echo of war fades behind him, replaced by silence and uncertainty. For a moment he doesn't move. He simply stares into the distance, aware that victory has not yet been won, but determined to fight until the very end. His sword hangs at his side, trembling from exhaustion, yet refusing to fall. Every muscle aches, every wound burns, but his spirit does not bend. This battle is far from over, and Leo knows it. No matter the cost, no matter the blood spilled, he will push forward, to protect everyone who fought beside him, to ensure none of their sacrifices are in vain. Because a true warrior doesn't stop when the world grows quiet. He stands ready for what comes next. The battlefield shook as soldiers clashed steel against steel. Alan pushed forward, eyes sharp and desperate. Leo, what do we do? Chaos roared all around him, but his faith still rested on one person. Leo grit his teeth, knuckles turning white as he tightened his grip on his sword. If Aunt Rosalia left this field to me, then I can't take a single step back. His voice held no hesitation, only resolve. This was his moment, his responsibility. Leo raised his sword high, heart pounding like a war drum. Everyone, charge! The soldiers roared back, inspired by his fire. From the distance, Rosalia looked toward him, pride softening her battle-worn expression. He's grown dependable, she murmured. The young lion was no longer just following the charge. He was leading it. Scene opens to a grand royal palace, shining under a calm sky. Far from the battlefield, in the heart of the kingdom, stood the royal palace. Pristine, towering, untouched by blood or war. Here, the fate of nations was decided, and the whispers of nobles carried more weight than the lives of soldiers on the front lines. Inside the palace, a council chamber. We hear cruel laughter echoing. While warriors bled for their homeland, the halls of nobility echoed with vile laughter. These men, draped in luxury, mocked the fallen, celebrating a death not yet cold. Ha! We can't allow a commoner to become the sixth empress. I'm glad that woman is dead. She was probably only good in bed. Their words dripped with arrogance and poison. More nobles gossip smugly. Camera shifts, a small crying boy appears. To them, her passing was a joyous occasion, a victory for noble blood. They praised themselves, blind to honor, blind to the weight of sacrifice. But in the corner stood a child, a boy no older than 5. Tears streamed down his face as those cruel voices cut into him. Close up, young Leonard crying. Young boy whispering, trembling, "Mother." This boy was Leonard. At 5 years old, he learned the truth of the world, not from battlefields, but from those who claimed to rule them. From that moment, the fire in his heart began to burn. A fire fueled by loss, by injustice, and by a vow only he could hear. The cold hall echoed with cruel laughter. Nobles gossiped openly, masks of elegance hiding venom. They mocked the dead, and mocked the woman who had once stood tall among them. Leonard, only 5 years old, stood frozen at his mother's funeral. Tears brimmed in his young eyes, but the nobles only sneered. To them, his pain was entertainment. One noble leaned close, whispering like poison, "He's too frail, not fit to attend his own mother's funeral." Another smirked, "Shame his father didn't die with her." Leonard's tiny fists clenched, trembling. His tears fell silently onto the cold stone floor. Father, why? In that moment he wasn't a noble, just a child begging the world for mercy, and receiving none. Suddenly, a voice boomed across the chamber, sharp enough to slice through the whispers. What a noisy bunch! The nobles turned, shocked. Leonard lifted his head, startled, breath caught in his throat. The crowd threatened to drown him in cruelty, but that single voice cut through, powerful, commanding, dangerous. Something was about to change. The nobles muttered, "The imperial anthem, Long Live Claude?" And the room fell silent, just as Leonard's tears finally stopped. The hall falls silent as the nobles whisper and grumble, irritated by the commotion caused by a crying child. Leonard, just 5 years old, trembles at the back of the funeral hall, tears streaming down his cheeks. His father is nowhere to be seen. To these nobles, this isn't a tragedy. It's a spectacle. They look down on him, on his mother, as if losing her is nothing. And yet, the boy clings to hope, hope that someone, anyone, will care. Suddenly, the heavy doors open. A lone figure enters, her footsteps echoing through the hall. Step, step, step. The nobles turn in annoyance, then fall silent. A woman stands in black mourning clothes, her presence commanding the room without a word. She strides toward the coffin, there to honor someone they mocked. Leonard lifts his tear-filled eyes, confused, curious. She kneels before the coffin, brushing away the dust with gentle hands. Her voice trembles as she whispers, "I'm sorry, Liza. I couldn't make it in time." Leonard freezes. This stranger isn't mocking, isn't laughing. She mourns. She remembers his mother. And for the first time since this nightmare began, the boy feels a spark of warmth. Someone cared. Leonard trembled, trying to swallow his sobs. Rosalia knelt beside him, voice calm but firm. "Chin up, Leonard." Her presence steadied him, even in grief. A gentle smile crossed her tired face. "Goodness, you're letting your handsome face go to waste." Leonard blinked through tears, startled by her warmth. Her voice soft, but unshakable. "Tell me," she asked quietly, "have you ever seen your mother cry?" Leonard froze, his fists clenched, tears hanging on his lashes. He shook his head. Even at her weakest, his mother never showed tears. A memory flooded back, warm hands cupping his cheeks, his mother's gentle voice. "Listen, Leonard, no matter how painful things get, you must always face forward." His breath caught. "Right. Mother said that," and in that moment, strength returned to the boy's eyes. Tears streamed down young Leonard's face, his tiny fists shaking as he fought the ache in his chest. His mother's voice echoed in his mind, her warmth, her hope, her dreams for him. But now she was gone, and the cruel laughter of nobles still rang in his ears. He clenched his eyes shut, swallowing his grief and rage. I should never water the seeds of sorrow. Those were the words she left him with, words he could barely cling to. Leonard trembled, trying desperately to steady himself. His breath hitched, tears threatening to fall again. But then, a firm hand came down on his head. Not cruel, not mocking, steady, grounding him. That's right. Her voice cut through the noise like steel wrapped in silk. He froze, staring up with red-rimmed eyes as the nun slowly kneeled beside him, wiping dust from his hair. Those are words I taught her. Her tone softened, a rare warmth hidden behind steel resolve. Leonard blinked in surprise, his sorrow momentarily arrested by confusion. This woman knew his mother, and his mother had learned strength from her. The nun met his eyes, fierce yet gentle. Face forward, Leonard. Your mother believed in you, so stand. And in that moment, a seed of resolve took root in his heart. Leonard blinked through the tears as the gentle voice reached him. Leonard. His heart thumped. The woman smiled softly at him, warm, steady, reassuring. It's okay now. I'll be with you from here on out. A calm he hadn't felt since his mother passed washed over him. Light poured through the church windows as they walked away from the pews. I want you to grow up to be strong, brave, and kind. Leonard looked back once, at the coffin, at the memory of his mother. Just like the one who taught me those words. With new resolve, he stepped forward. Outside the hall, her voice lowered, firm, decisive. Come with me. Leonard wiped the last of his tears and nodded. His old world had ended, and a new path began beside her. They stepped out into the light together. A new beginning. Leonard clenched his small fists and followed beside her, determination burning in his eyes. Yes, he shouted, full of hope. Her voice echoed in his mind as shadows of the sneering nobles flashed behind them. There's not a single ally of yours in this empire anymore. But she wasn't saying it to break him. She was preparing him. That's why you must at least learn to protect yourself. Leonard nodded bravely. Yes. She looked down at him, satisfied. You can't have a half-hearted resolve. Can you do it? Leonard lifted his chin. Yes. That's what I like to hear. Her tone softened. Then I'll give you something precious. For your protection. Leonard blinked, surprised. A sword dropped into his hands, his very first. Engage so heavy. His arms trembled, but he refused to let go. Your first sword. With that weight, he wasn't just a grieving boy anymore. He was beginning his path as a warrior. Leonard gripped his sword with determination, sweat sliding down his cheek. First, I need to be able to swing this easily, he muttered, trying to steady the blade. Across from him, the woman smiled proudly. Well then, train hard, Leo. Leonard blinked, startled. Huh? Why? But her words filled him with fire. He wasn't turning back now. A burly knight peeked over, confused. Huh, me? The woman nodded sharply. I approve of him. Have this guy watch your progress when I can't. Leonard's eyes widened as he bowed gratefully. Tage, thank you. The knight panicked. Hey! But the woman barked, everyone prepare! And marched off with authority. The knight rubbed his head. Awkward. Master, huh? That doesn't sound too bad, haha. Leonard puffed up with excitement, his eyes shining. Master! I look forward to learning from you. The poor man froze, completely overwhelmed. The carriage rattled as Leonard peered out the window, his eyes wide with curiosity and excitement. Aunt, what is this place? He asked, almost breathless. His aunt smiled calmly, the wind brushing against her hair as the carriage slowed to a halt. This, she said softly, is my territory. The door opened, and before Leonard lay a breathtaking vista. Mountains rising into the sky, rivers cutting through endless forests, nature stretching as far as the eye could see. "Starting today," she continued, her voice warm and certain, "this will be your second hometown." Leonard's heart fluttered. For the first time since the tragedy, hope felt real. Carriages rolled along the winding road, accompanied by knights on horseback. Birds soared above the lush valley, and sunlight spilled like gold across the hills. Leonard leaned out, eyes sparkling. "This place, it's amazing." He looked back at his aunt, unable to hide the excitement lighting up his face, and she simply crossed her arms, watching him, proud, yet quiet. For Leonard, this was no longer a journey. This was a beginning. The convoy continued deeper into the countryside, the path covered in trees and dancing beams of sunlight. The blue of the water, the green of the trees, the open sky, Leonard whispered, overwhelmed. His aunt's voice answered, firm and elegant. The clarity of the lake, the strength of the trees, the endless sky, magnificent. "Isn't it?" Leonard nodded, his heart thumping with a quiet resolve. In this peaceful land, he would grow stronger. He would honor their promise. And one day he would protect everything he held dear. The carriage slowed, the trees parting to reveal a quiet road leading into a small town. Stone houses lined the path, each humble yet full of life. Leonard leaned forward, eyes wide. "It is. But," his aunt chuckled softly, "you'd be greatly mistaken to underestimate it as just the countryside," she warned. The air here felt different, cleaner, lighter. A place untouched by the heavy politics and suffocating ambitions of the empire. Leo pressed his face close to the carriage window, watching the bustling street come alive. Villagers shouted greetings. Children chased each other through market stalls. It may not be as grand as the capital, he thought, but this place, it felt real. Warm faces, curious eyes, voices filled with laughter. For the first time in a long while, Leo's chest felt light. "This is amazing," he whispered. "Take a look," his aunt said proudly. The carriage rolled deeper into the town, across stone bridges over peaceful canals, past lively shops and cheerful citizens. "But LNT, the capital of Alexis, puts up a good fight too," she added with a smile. Leo stared in awe. Even without golden palaces or sparkling towers, the city glowed with energy and hope. Every person they passed held bright, shining eyes full of life. Workers hauled goods, soldiers greeted townsfolk, mothers carried baskets through sunlit streets. No one bowed in fear, no one whispered in dread. Here, titles didn't weigh people down. Spirits lifted them up. Leo felt something warm blooming in his chest. Could this truly be home? And for the first time since his mother's death, his heart dared to believe in a future again. The carriage rolled to a gentle stop, and Leonard leaned forward, his eyes sparkling as he gazed at the lively town ahead. There was no tension here, no heavy air of the capital. Only warmth, honest faces, and the sound of bustling life. Lady Alexis stepped beside him, pride shining in her eyes. "There's not a single person here," Leonard whispered, a soft awe in his voice, "who will look down on you." Her words wrapped around him like armor, warm, strong, reassuring. He took a deep breath, clutching the small wooden sword at his side. For the first time since his mother's death, he felt hope blooming again. This land, her land, would become his strength. Years passed swiftly, filled with relentless training and sleepless nights in the library. Sweat dripped from Leonard's brow as he clashed swords against another knight in training. "Prince Leonard's skills, he puts us adults to shame," one soldier whispered, astonished. Nearby, another trainee puffed out his cheeks with pride. "That boy? Yeah, he came all the way from Macedonia to study abroad. Look at him now." On the training field, two boys' swords struck again. Steel clanged, sparks flew, and they both pushed forward with equal resolve. Finally, they lowered their blades, breathing hard. "You're pretty good, Leo," the blond boy grinned. "And you are?" Leonard asked, wiping his sweat. "The name's Alan." Leonard smiled, extending his fist. "Leonard." The two fists met with a sharp pow, sealing a bond neither of them yet understood, brotherhood born in steel and sweat. Then, as night fell, Leonard sat alone in the study. Books towered over him, pages scattered, candlelight flickering. His eyes skimmed maps, history, tactics. So this is the empire of this era, he muttered. Not only was he sharpening his sword, he was forging his mind as well. Leo, panting from the intense training match, wipes the sweat from his brow. He meets the eyes of the energetic blonde boy standing in front of him. The boy grins proudly. Alan? The name's Alan. And you are? Leo gives a determined smile, standing tall despite exhaustion. Leo, Leonard. With a spark of mutual respect, they bump fists. Alan, you're pretty good. Leo, you too, Alan. A new friendship, forged not by status or birth, but through the clash of steel and spirit. Training doesn't stop at sword swings, it extends to the mind. We see Leo staggering under the weight of a pile of books, struggling but refusing to give up. Leo, NGH, I have to understand how strong a man is. There. He pushes through the difficulty, remembering the guidance and expectations placed upon him. Day turns to night. In a quiet library lit only by moonlight, Leo continues studying history, strategy, and politics. His eyes burn with the same determination we saw on the battlefield. Leo, thinking Icham. So the empire of this era, he refuses to be weak in body or mind. Moonlight spills across his face. Sweat drips. Books surround him, swords rest nearby. Leo works tirelessly, training not just to fight, but to understand the world, his enemies, and the weight of his future. Every page he turns echoes his mother's final lesson, and the vow he now carries in his heart, to stand strong, face forward, and protect those dear to him. The boy once drowning in sorrow now rises, step by step, toward the prince and warrior he is destined to become. Training continued relentlessly. Every swing of Leo's sword echoed across the courtyard, sweat dripping and muscles screaming. His aunt watched sharply, correcting every flaw. Not enough strength. In battle, hesitation means death, she barked. Leo grit his teeth and pushed harder, determined, but she could see exhaustion creeping in. Later that evening, she paused outside his study door, watching him still practicing drills on paper. Tired, but refusing to quit. Her stern expression softened just a little. Leo gasped for breath, sword trembling in his grip. Please. One more try. His aunt shook her head firmly. No, that's enough for today. Leo clenched his fist, frustrated. I'm still nowhere near her level, but then she offered her hand, surprising him. Come with me. I have something to show you. Leo blinked, then nodded eagerly. Okay. His aunt guided him through town, stopping at a local tavern. Warm laughter and the smell of stew filled the air. Leo sat happily at the table, eating with the villagers. A simple moment he treasured. You've got it rough, Lord Leo, one villager teased. Babysitting Lady Alexis every day. Leo grinned and shook his head. I love spending time with her. And your stew's amazing too, Uncle Matthew. His aunt sat beside him, quiet but attentive, watching her nephew blend with the people. Leo cheerfully raised his mug. Matthew, more drink please. Then his voice softened, more thoughtful. But more than anything, I just love hearing my aunt's stories. Across from him, his aunt gently swirled her cup. People once mocked her for ruling a small territory. Yet she vowed not to envy anyone. She would build a land prosperous enough to silence every scoff. That pride, that defiance. Leo admired it deeply. She stared into her drink, memories flickering. They laughed at me, doubted me, but I refused to bow. Her voice was calm, yet fierce. I swore I'd make Alexis wealthier than the capital someday. To prove I never drew the short straw in life. Leo watched her silently, admiration burning in his chest. To him, she wasn't just his teacher. She was the proof that dignity and strength could carve their own destiny. Leo walked beside his aunt, her arm draped over his shoulders. She hiccuped, muttering proudly through her drunken haze. Back in the day. A soft smile tugged at Leo's lips. Seeing her like this, vulnerable, peaceful, made his chest warm. She had always stood tall, stronger than everyone. Tonight, she leaned on him. For once, he was the support. Leo gently shifted her weight, making sure she didn't slip as they walked under the quiet moon. Aunt, thank you. She opened her eyes halfway, a tired but proud smirk forming. For years she had carried him forward. Tonight he carried her, not because she needed it but because he wanted to. The bridge stretched under the moonlight as Leo continued to carry her on his back. Her voice, usually hard steel, came out like fragile glass. Aunt said, "Thank you, Leonard." He didn't answer aloud, but his heart screamed a vow. "I will repay everything you've done for me." Even if the world turned against him, he would never abandon her. Morning arrived. In the war room, maps lay spread before them, the border, the empire, the looming threat. Leo's eyes hardened. Their invasion route. They'll strike Alexis first. Aunt pointed at the map, voice sharp and commanding. The warrior returned. Aunt, once every decade they march. This time we'll be ready. The time of peaceful training and warm meals was ending. A storm was coming, and Leo felt it in his bones. The sound of hooves shook the earth. Leo stood armored now. No longer a child, not quite a knight, but a warrior forged through sweat and love. They're a large army, yet we have only what we can muster. She didn't sound afraid. Neither did he. Leo gripped his sword, breathing steady. This place, these people, my home. I will protect it, no matter what comes. The cavalry marched through the forest path, armor clinking softly with each step of their steeds. Leonard rode near his aunt, alert but calm, the cool breeze brushing against his cheek. Her gaze remained forward, posture unshaken, as she spoke with authority. This is the fourth defensive battle for me. The soldiers around her nodded with confidence. They had faced this threat before. Leonard listened closely, absorbing every word. He could feel the weight of history on this road, the iron resolve his aunt carried like armor thicker than steel. Leonard kept pace as his aunt continued. We've fended them off 3 times in the past. The horses snorted, restless with anticipation. Leonard's jaw tightened, his first real battle, but not his first taste of hardship. But this is your first, Leonard. Don't get too eager. Leonard nodded firmly, voice steady. Understood. His heart pounded, but there was no hesitation, only resolve. Her hand lifted, FWIP, the signal sharp and precise. The soldiers' formation tightened instantly, discipline shaped by countless battles. Leonard's eyes sharpened as he glanced at Alan riding beside him. No jokes, no nervous smile, only mutual determination. The wind rustled through banners, carrying the scent of steel and soil. The moment before war. Silent, tense, unforgettable. Hooves scraped the earth as the army steadied themselves. Leonard inhaled deeply, once, then again, grounding himself in the present. He thought of all the training, every bruise, every fall, every word his aunt drilled into him. She shaped his sword but also his spine. I want to use Aunt's martial arts training. This wasn't just a battle. It was the moment to prove he could stand beside her. Not as a child, not as a shadow, but as a warrior. Leonard's fingers tightened around his sword hilt until his knuckles trembled. His eyes burned with purpose, not fear. For her sake. His aunt, his mentor, the one who raised him not to break but to rise. This battle wasn't just for the kingdom. It was his vow to protect the one who believed in him. The blade rose. The heartbeat of war surged. Leonard charged forward, destiny in his hands.